She hadn't seen that necklace in 43 years. Until today. Eleanor Whitmore sat perfectly still in her favorite corner booth at the Windsor Hotel restaurant, her hand frozen halfway to her water glass. Her sharp blue eyes locked on the young woman approaching her table, more specifically, on the delicate gold heart hanging from a thin chain around her neck. The world seemed to stop spinning. "Good afternoon, ma'am," the waitress said with a warm smile. "My name is Maya, and I'll be taking care of you today. Can I start you off with something to drink?" Eleanor couldn't speak. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The necklace caught the afternoon light streaming through the tall windows, and Eleanor felt something crack open inside her chest, something she'd kept locked away for decades. "Ma'am?" Maya's smile faltered slightly. "Are you all right?" "That necklace," Eleanor whispered, her voice barely audible. Where did you get that necklace?" Maya's hand instinctively went to the gold heart at her throat. Oh, this. It was my mother's. She gave it to me before she passed away 2 years ago." Her eyes softened with old grief. "It's the only thing I have left of her." Eleanor's hands began to tremble. She set down her water glass before she dropped it. "What was your mother's name?" Maya hesitated, confusion flickering across her face. Grace Bennett." "Why do you ask?" The name hit Eleanor like a physical blow. Grace. Her daughter. The child she'd lost all those years ago. "I need to sit down," Eleanor said, though she was already sitting. Her mind was spinning, memories flooding back so fast she could barely breathe. Maya quickly pulled out the chair across from her. "Let me get you some water, fresh water, and maybe some bread. You look pale." "No. Wait." Eleanor reached out and caught Maya's wrist. Her grip was surprisingly strong for a woman in her 70s. "Please, just sit with me for a moment." Maya glanced nervously toward the kitchen. "Ma'am, I'm working. I could get in trouble." "I'll handle it," Eleanor said firmly. "Please, this is important." Something in the older woman's eyes made Maya sit. They weren't just blue. They were desperate, haunted, filled with something Maya couldn't quite name. "That necklace," Eleanor said again, her voice steadier now. "I gave it to someone a very long time ago. Someone I loved more than my own life." Maya's fingers closed protectively around the gold heart. "My mother said it was special. She never told me where it came from, just that it was precious to her. She wore it every single day, until she got too sick to wear anything at all." Eleanor closed her eyes. Tears slipped down her perfectly made-up cheeks, cutting through decades of careful composure. "Your mother," she whispered. "Grace. Did she ever talk about her family?" Maya shook her head slowly. "Not much. She said she grew up in foster care. She told me she never knew her real parents." She paused, studying Eleanor's face more carefully now. "Why are you asking me this?" Eleanor opened her eyes. They were swimming with tears, but also with something else, a fierce, aching hope. "Because Grace was my daughter," she said simply. "And if she was your mother, then you're my granddaughter." The restaurant noise faded into background static. Maya stared at the elegant woman across from her, searching for signs of confusion or senility or some kind of cruel joke. But Eleanor's face was clear, determined, and filled with raw emotion that couldn't be faked. "That's impossible," Maya said finally. "My mother grew up in foster care. She was abandoned as a baby. She spent her whole childhood being moved from home to home." "I know," Eleanor whispered, and the pain in her voice was so deep that Maya felt it in her own chest. "Because I'm the one who gave her up." The words hung in the air between them, like smoke. Maya pulled her hand back from the table. I don't understand. I was 17 years old, Eleanor said, her voice cracking. 17, pregnant, and terrified. My father was a powerful man in this city, Richard Whitmore. Maybe you've heard the name. Maya had. Everyone in town knew the Whitmore family. They owned half the real estate downtown, funded the hospital wing, had their names on buildings and scholarships. They were old money, the kind of wealth that went back generations. He gave me a choice, Eleanor continued. Give up the baby and keep my place in the family, or keep the baby and lose everything. My name, my home, my future. He said he'd make sure I never saw a penny of family money. He said I'd be disowned, forgotten. She twisted the diamond ring on her finger, a habit born from years of anxiety. I was young and scared. I didn't know how I'd survive on my own, so I gave her up. Her voice broke completely. I gave up my baby girl. They told me she'd go to a good family. They promised me she'd be loved. Maya sat perfectly still, trying to process what she was hearing. But they lied, Eleanor said bitterly. Or maybe the adoption fell through. I don't know. I was never told. I spent 43 years believing she was out there somewhere, living a happy life with people who could give her everything I couldn't. She reached into her purse with shaking hands and pulled out a faded photograph. She slid it across the table. Maya picked it up. It showed a teenage girl, barely more than a child herself, holding a newborn wrapped in a pink blanket. The girl's face was young and scared, but there was fierce love in her eyes as she looked down at the baby. That was taken the day she was born, Eleanor said softly. The only photo I have. I kept it hidden for over 40 years. My husband never knew about her. My sons never knew they had a sister. Maya stared at the photo, then at Eleanor, then back at the photo. The resemblance was there, the same high cheekbones, the same full lips, the same wide-set eyes. Before they took her away, Eleanor continued, I put that necklace around her neck. It was my mother's, my own mother, who died when I was 12. It was the only thing of value I had that was truly mine. I wanted Grace to have something that connected her to me, even if she never knew who I was. She reached across the table and gently touched the gold heart hanging around Maya's neck. I had it engraved, she whispered, on the back. Maya's hands were shaking as she unclasped the necklace and turned the heart over. In tiny, delicate script, almost worn smooth by decades of wear, were the words, Always loved, always yours. Maya's breath caught in her throat. E for Eleanor, the older woman said quietly. I couldn't put my full name. My father would have found out. But I needed her to know. I needed my baby to know that I loved her, that I would always love her. Tears were streaming down Maya's face now. She looked at the necklace, then at the photograph, then at Eleanor. My mother, she whispered. She wore this every day. Even when she was dying, she asked the nurse to put it on her.
She said it made her feel less alone. Eleanor covered her face with her hands and sobbed. Deep, broken sounds that came from a place of grief so old and deep it had become part of her bones. Maya didn't think. She simply moved around the table and wrapped her arms around the older woman, holding her while she cried decades worth of tears. "I'm so sorry," Eleanor kept saying between sobs. "I'm so sorry I gave her up. I'm so sorry she was alone. I'm so sorry." "Stop," Maya said gently. "Just stop." She pulled back and held Eleanor's face in her hands, the way her mother used to hold hers when she was upset. "My mother had a good life," she said firmly. "It wasn't easy, and she struggled, but she was strong. She was kind. She taught me how to work hard and how to love people even when life is hard. She gave me everything she had." Eleanor searched her face desperately. Was she happy? Maya thought about it honestly. Sometimes. She laughed a lot. She loved small things, flowers and old movies and the smell of rain. She struggled with money and she was tired a lot, but yes, I think she was happy in the ways that mattered. Did she? Eleanor's voice was barely a whisper. Did she ever wonder about me? Maya nodded slowly. She used to say she wished she knew where she came from. She'd look at this necklace and wonder who E was. She'd make up stories sometimes. Maybe E was a queen or a movie star or an angel watching over her. A broken laugh escaped Eleanor's throat. "I'm none of those things. I'm just a woman who made a terrible choice and spent her whole life regretting it." "You were 17, Maya said gently, and scared. My mother understood that. She used to tell me that everyone does the best they can with what they have. She said you can't judge people without knowing their whole story." Eleanor gripped Maya's hands. "I looked for her. After my father died, I hired investigators. I spent years trying to find her. But the records were sealed, and the adoption agency closed down. It was like she'd vanished into thin air." "She didn't vanish," Maya said softly. "She lived. She loved. She made a life. And she gave me this necklace so I'd always have a piece of her." Eleanor looked at her granddaughter, this beautiful, kind young woman she'd never known existed until 10 minutes ago, and felt something shift inside her chest. "Tell me about her," she said urgently. "Tell me everything. Please." Maya smiled through her tears. She loved to sing, terribly off-key, but she didn't care. She'd sing while she cooked dinner. She worked 3 jobs sometimes to keep us afloat, but she always made time for me. She read to me every night until I was 12 and told her I was too old for it. Eleanor hung on every word. "She was brave," Maya continued. "When she got sick, cancer, she didn't complain. She just kept going as long as she could. Near the end, when she could barely speak, she held this necklace and whispered, 'Someone loved me once. I know they did.'" Eleanor broke down again, and this time Maya cried with her. The restaurant manager appeared at the table, looking concerned. "Maya, is everything all right?" Eleanor straightened immediately, wiping her eyes. "Everything is fine. Better than fine. Maya was just helping me with a family matter." She pulled out her wallet and handed the manager a $100 bill. "For her time. I need to speak with her privately. I'll cover her tables." The manager looked at Maya, who nodded. "It's okay, Frank. I'll explain later." He walked away, pocketing the money with a confused expression. Maya sat back down across from Eleanor. I don't know what to say. It's overwhelming. I know, Eleanor said, and I don't expect anything from you. I don't expect you to call me grandmother or to welcome me into your life. I needed you to know the truth. I needed you to know that your mother was loved before she was born, and that giving her up destroyed me. She pulled a business card from her purse and wrote something on the back. This is my personal number, she said, sliding it across the table. If you ever want to talk, or if you need anything at all, please call me. And if you never want to see me again, I'll understand that too. Maya took the card and stared at it. Eleanor Whitmore, CEO, Whitmore Properties. The phone number was written in elegant script. I need time, Maya said honestly, to process this, to think about what it means. Of course, Eleanor said quickly. Take all the time you need. I've waited 43 years. I can wait a little longer. She stood up slowly, gathering her purse and coat. Your mother, she said, her voice thick with emotion. What did she look like? Maya pulled out her phone and scrolled through photos. She turned the screen around, showing a picture of Grace, a woman in her 40s with warm brown eyes and a gentle smile, wearing the gold heart necklace. Eleanor stared at the photo for a long moment. She's beautiful, she whispered. She looks happy. She was, Maya said. She really was. Eleanor reached out and touched the screen, tracing her daughter's face with one finger. Then she pulled out her phone. May I? She asked. Maya nodded. Eleanor took a photo of the picture on Maya's phone, her hands shaking the whole time. Thank you, she said softly. Thank you for letting me see her, for letting me know she's okay, that she was okay. She turned to leave, then stopped and looked back. The necklace suits you, she said, with a sad smile. Your mother had good taste. Maya stood up. Mrs. Whitmore. Eleanor turned around. I'm working here every Tuesday and Friday, Maya said. If you wanted to come back, we could talk more. About her. About everything. Eleanor's face transformed. Hope lit up her eyes like sunshine breaking through storm clouds. I'd like that very much, she whispered. She walked out of the restaurant with her head held high, but Maya noticed the way her shoulders shook with silent sobs as she pushed through the door into the afternoon light. Maya sank back into the chair, still holding the gold heart necklace. She turned it over and read the inscription again. Always loved. Always yours. E. Her mother had been loved. Even when she'd felt most alone in the world, someone had loved her fiercely enough to let her go. And now, 43 years later, that love had found its way back home. Maya clasped the necklace back around her neck and pressed the gold heart against her chest, feeling her mother's presence in the cool metal. Mom, she whispered to the empty air. I found her. I found E. The next Tuesday, Eleanor arrived at the restaurant exactly at 2 o'clock, right when the lunch rush ended and Maya's shift slowed down.
The simple navy dress instead of her usual designer suits. She looked softer somehow, less like a wealthy businesswoman, and more like someone's grandmother. Maya saw her walk in and felt her heart skip. She'd spent the past week questioning everything, looking through her mother's old belongings, reading through the few documents Grace had kept, trying to piece together a history that suddenly had missing chapters. Eleanor sat in the same corner booth. When Maya approached, they just looked at each other for a long moment. "Hi," Maya said finally. "Hello," Eleanor replied, her voice gentle. Maya set down a pot of tea without asking. Chamomile, the kind her mother used to make when they needed to talk about difficult things. "I did some research," Maya said, pouring 2 cups. "I went to the county records office. They wouldn't let me see the sealed adoption files, but they confirmed that a Grace Elizabeth was born here 43 years ago and placed into state care when the adoption fell through." Eleanor nodded slowly. "Elizabeth was my mother's middle name." "I know," Maya said. "I looked up your family. There's a lot about you online. The Whitmore Foundation, the hospital wing, all the charity work you've done." She paused, stirring honey into her tea. "All the children's programs you've funded, the foster care initiatives, the scholarship programs for kids aging out of the system." Eleanor looked down at her hands. "I couldn't save my own daughter, but I thought maybe I could help other children like her." "You've helped thousands," Maya said softly. "The Whitmore Scholarship put 3 kids from my high school through college." "It's not enough," Eleanor said. "It will never be enough." They sat in silence for a moment, sipping tea. "I told my husband," Eleanor said finally, "about Grace, about you. I've been married to Martin for 38 years, and I never told him about her. But I told him everything last week." "How did he take it?" "He cried," Eleanor said, surprised laughter in her voice. "Martin never cries. But he held me and he cried, and he said he wished I'd told him sooner. He said we could have looked together." She set down her cup. "He wants to meet you, if you're willing. And my sons, your uncles, I suppose. They're shocked, but they want to meet you too." Maya felt overwhelmed. "I don't know if I'm ready for all that." "I understand," Eleanor said quickly. "We'll go at whatever pace you need. I'm not trying to rush you into anything." Maya twisted the gold heart between her fingers. "I keep thinking about my mother, how she spent her whole life not knowing where she came from. And now I have this whole family that she never knew existed." "Tell me something," Eleanor said gently. "Did Grace ever try to find her birth parents?" Maya nodded. "Once. When I was about 10, she hired someone to help, but the records were sealed. She said it was too expensive to keep trying, but I think it hurt too much to keep hitting dead ends. She stopped looking after that." Eleanor closed her eyes, pain etched across her face. "I was looking at the same time. We were both searching for each other and neither of us knew it. That's the part that makes me angry," Maya said quietly. "Not at you, at the system, at your father, at all the things that kept you apart." "I'm angry too," Eleanor admitted. "I've been angry for 43 years. But anger doesn't change anything. It doesn't bring her back." She reached across the table. "But you're here. And maybe that's a kind of second chance." Maya took her hand. Eleanor's skin was soft, her grip strong. "My mother used to say that the people we love never really leave us," Maya said. "She'd say they live on in the things they taught us, in the way we move through the world." "She sounds wise," Eleanor said. "She was," Maya replied. "She worked as a home health aide for 20 years. She took care of people who were dying, and she said it taught her what really mattered. Not money or status, but kindness, connection, being there when someone needs you." Eleanor smiled sadly. "She grew up to be a better person than I ever was." "That's not true," Maya said firmly. "You've spent decades trying to make up for something you did when you were just a scared kid. That takes courage." They talked for 2 hours. Eleanor told stories about her mother, Maya's great-grandmother, who loved to garden and bake bread. Maya told stories about Grace, how she sang off-key and collected stray cats and made the world's best grilled cheese sandwiches. When Maya finally had to get back to work, Eleanor stood up to leave. "Same time next week?" she asked hopefully. "Same time," Maya confirmed. Eleanor reached into her purse. "I brought you something. I've been carrying it around for years, just hoping." She pulled out a small velvet box and handed it to Maya. Inside was a matching gold bracelet, delicate and beautiful, with a small charm in the shape of a heart. "It was made to go with the necklace," Eleanor explained. "I kept it all these years. I always thought, maybe someday." Maya lifted the bracelet out of the box. It caught the light just like the necklace, glowing warm and golden. "Will you help me put it on?" she asked. Eleanor's hands shook as she fastened the clasp around Maya's wrist. When it was secure, she held Maya's hand for just a moment longer than necessary. "You have her eyes," she whispered. "Grace's eyes. I can see her in you." "Then maybe she's still here," Maya said. "In some way." Eleanor left with tears in her eyes, but they weren't sad tears anymore. They were something else, something that felt almost like healing. Over the following months, Maya and Eleanor built something new. It wasn't exactly a grandmother-granddaughter relationship. Not yet. It was something more tentative, more careful. Two people teaching each other, sharing stories, building trust. Eleanor invited Maya to dinner at her home. The house was exactly what Maya expected. Enormous, elegant, filled with expensive art and antique furniture. But Eleanor led her past all of that to a small room at the back of the house. "This was going to be the nursery," Eleanor said quietly. "When I was pregnant. I used to come in here and imagine what Grace would look like, what kind of person she'd become." The room was empty now except for a rocking chair by the window. "After my father died, I turned it into a sort of memorial. A place to remember her." She opened a closet. Inside were boxes of things. Donations to foster care programs, letters from children who'd received scholarships, photos of programs Eleanor had funded. "Everything I've done for the past 40 years has been for her," Eleanor said, trying to make up for failing her. Maya took her hand. "You didn't fail her. You gave her life. That's not nothing." In the corner of the closet was one more box, smaller than the rest. Eleanor pulled it out and opened it. Inside were baby clothes, tiny, impossibly small, yellowed with age. A pink blanket, a stuffed rabbit. "I bought these before she was born," Eleanor whispered. "I hid them from my father. After I gave her up, I couldn't bring myself to throw them away." Maya lifted the blanket carefully. It was soft, hand-knitted, made with love. "She would have liked this," she said. "My mother loved soft things, blankets and sweaters. She said they made her feel safe. Eleanor started to cry, quiet tears that she didn't try to hide anymore. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there," she said. "I'm sorry she grew up feeling unsafe. I'm sorry for all of it." Maya set down the blanket and pulled Eleanor into a hug. "She forgave you," she said softly. "I know she did."
Because she taught me that love means forgiving the people who hurt us, especially when they didn't mean to. They stood there in the empty nursery that should have been Grace's room, holding each other while 43 years of grief finally found its way out. 6 months after their first meeting, Maya invited Eleanor to visit Grace's grave. It was in a small cemetery on the edge of town, nothing fancy. The headstone was simple. Grace Elizabeth Bennett. Beloved Mother, 1982 through 2023. She loved with her whole heart. Eleanor stood in front of it for a long time, not speaking. Maya set down fresh flowers, daisies, her mother's favorite. "Hi, Mom," she said softly. "I brought someone to meet you." Eleanor knelt down in the grass, not caring that her expensive dress was getting dirty. She reached out and touched the headstone with shaking fingers. "Hello, baby," she whispered. "It's me. It's your mother. I know I don't have the right to call myself that, but it's me." She pulled out the faded photograph she always carried, the one of her holding infant Grace, and propped it against the headstone. "I looked for you," she said, her voice breaking. "I looked for so long. And I'm so sorry I couldn't find you. I'm sorry I wasn't there when you needed me. I'm sorry for everything." Maya knelt beside her and took her hand. "But I found Maya," Eleanor continued, tears streaming down her face. "And she's wonderful, Grace. She's kind and strong and everything I hoped you'd be. You did such a good job raising her. You were a better mother than I ever could have been." She pressed her hand flat against the cold stone. "I love you," she whispered. "I loved you from the moment I knew you existed. And I never stopped. Not for one single day. I hope you felt that somehow. I hope you knew." Maya was crying too. She pulled the gold heart necklace out from under her shirt. She knew Eleanor. She wore this every day. She said it made her feel connected to something bigger than herself. She said it made her feel loved. Eleanor looked at the necklace, then at Maya, then back at the headstone. "Thank you," she said to her daughter's grave. "Thank you for wearing it. Thank you for keeping that piece of me close to your heart." They sat there together until the sun started to set, grandmother and granddaughter, keeping vigil over the woman who connected them. A year after their first meeting, Eleanor threw a party. It wasn't her usual society event. It was small, intimate, just family. Her husband Martin, her 2 sons and their families, and Maya. "I want you to meet everyone properly," Eleanor had said. "As family, not as a secret or a surprise, but as my granddaughter." Maya was nervous walking into the Whitmore house that evening. But Martin greeted her at the door with a warm hug. "We're so glad you're here," he said sincerely. "Eleanor has told us so much about you." Her uncles, David and Thomas, were kind and welcoming. Their children, Maya's cousins, were curious and friendly. Over dinner, Eleanor stood up to make a toast. 43 years ago, I made a choice that I've regretted every day since," she said, her voice steady and clear. "I gave up my daughter because I was scared and young and didn't know any better. I spent decades trying to make up for that mistake. She looked at Maya. But recently, I learned that even the worst mistakes can lead to unexpected blessings. My daughter Grace lived a good life. She raised an incredible daughter. And now, through some miracle I don't understand, I've been given a second chance. She raised her glass. To Grace, who I never got to know, but who I loved with all my heart. And to Maya, who reminds me every day that love can survive anything. Even time, even distance, even death. Everyone raised their glasses. Maya felt tears sting her eyes. After dinner, Eleanor pulled her aside. "I have something for you," she said. She led Maya upstairs to a bedroom that had been redecorated. The walls were painted a soft cream color. There was a comfortable bed, a desk, bookshelves. "This is for you," Eleanor said. "Whenever you want to stay here, whenever you need a place, it's yours." Maya looked around the room, overwhelmed. "You don't have to use it," Eleanor added quickly. "I just wanted you to know you have a place here. You're not alone anymore." Maya turned to her, tears streaming down her face. "She felt alone her whole life," she whispered. "My mother. She always felt like she didn't belong anywhere." "I know," Eleanor said softly. "And I can't change that. But I can make sure you never feel that way. You belong here, Maya, with us, with your family." Maya fell into her arms, and Eleanor held her tight, held her the way she'd wanted to hold Grace all those years ago. "Thank you," Maya whispered. "Thank you for finding us. Thank you for letting me in," Eleanor replied. 2 years after their first meeting, Maya stood in the same restaurant booth where everything had changed. She was wearing the gold heart necklace and the matching bracelet. But now she also wore something new, a ring that Eleanor had given her on her birthday, set with a small diamond that had belonged to Grace's grandmother. "So you carry all of us with you," Eleanor had said when she gave it to her. 4 generations of women who loved you." Maya touched the necklace now, feeling the weight of all that history, all that love. A young couple sat down in her section. The woman was pregnant, her hand resting protectively on her belly. "Congratulations," Maya said warmly, setting down menus. "Thank you," the woman said, beaming. "It's our first." "That's wonderful," Maya said. "Being a mother is the most important thing you'll ever do." She thought about Grace, about how her mother had worked 3 jobs and sang off-key, and loved her fiercely even when life was hard. She thought about Eleanor, about how one choice made at 17 had shaped the rest of her life, but how she'd spent decades trying to make it right. She thought about the gold heart necklace that had survived 43 years and traveled from one generation to the next, carrying love across time and distance. "Your baby is lucky to have you," Maya said to the pregnant woman. After work, she drove to Eleanor's house. It was Sunday, which meant family dinner. Martin greeted her at the door with a hug. Her uncles and cousins were already there, laughing in the living room. Eleanor was in the kitchen cooking. When she saw Maya, her whole face lit up. "There you are," she said, pulling her into a hug. "I was hoping you'd make it." "I wouldn't miss it," Maya said. As she helped set the table, surrounded by the family she'd never known existed, Maya touched the gold heart at her throat and thought about her mother.
Someone loved me once. I know they did. Grace had been right. Someone had loved her. Fiercely, desperately, completely. And that love had never died. It had just been waiting for the right moment to come home. Eleanor watched Maya across the dinner table, laughing at one of Thomas's terrible jokes, and felt something settle in her chest. Something that had been restless and aching for over 40 years. She couldn't bring Grace back. She couldn't undo the past. But she had this. This beautiful young woman who carried Grace's eyes and her smile and her kind heart. She had this second chance. And she would spend the rest of her life making sure Maya knew she was loved, that she belonged, that she would never be alone. After dinner, when everyone had gone home, Maya stayed to help clean up. "Eleanor," she said softly. "Yes, dear." Maya hesitated, then said the words she'd been working up the courage to say for months. "Would it be okay if I called you Grandma?" Eleanor dropped the dish she was holding. It clattered in the sink, but she didn't notice. She turned to Maya with tears streaming down her face. "I would love that more than anything in the world," she whispered. Maya crossed the kitchen and wrapped her arms around her. "Thank you, Grandma," she said, "for never giving up, for always looking, for loving her even when she was gone." Eleanor held her granddaughter tight and thought about the scared 17-year-old girl she'd been, holding her newborn baby for the last time, fastening a gold heart necklace around her tiny neck. Always loved, always yours. She'd meant it then, even though it broke her heart. And 43 years later, that love had found its way home. On the 3rd anniversary of the day they met, Maya and Eleanor returned to Grace's grave together. They'd added a new engraving to the headstone. She was loved before she was born. She is loved still. Her daughter carries that love forward. Eleanor knelt in the grass and placed fresh flowers. Daisies, always daisies. "We're okay, baby," she whispered to her daughter. "Maya's okay. She's happy. She's loved. You did such a good job raising her." She touched the cold stone gently. "I wish I could have known you. I wish I could have been there. But I know you through her, through your daughter. And she's magnificent, Grace. You should be so proud." Maya knelt beside her, wearing the gold heart that had started it all. "We're taking care of each other now, Mom," she said softly. "Just like you would have wanted." They sat together in comfortable silence as the sun set behind them, casting long shadows across the grass. 3 generations of women, connected by love that refused to die. Eleanor reached over and took Maya's hand. "Thank you for finding me," she said. Maya squeezed her hand and smiled. "Thank you for never stopping looking." As they walked back to the car together, the gold heart necklace caught the last rays of sunlight, glowing warm and bright against Maya's chest. A silent reminder that love endures, that family finds its way home, and that sometimes the most precious things are the ones we thought we'd lost forever. Sometimes the people we lose never really leave us. They live on in the hearts we touch, the love we carry, and the connections that survive even death. What do you think about Eleanor's choice? Could you forgive someone who gave you up, even if they had good reasons? Have you ever found something that connected you to your past in an unexpected way? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to Emotional Stories for more true tales that touch the heart.